This is CBC Vancouver News.
Stranded by the water,
stuck in Tofino until the 24th or 25th.
or waiting for crucial deliveries.
Once we're on the road, I don't care who you are unless it's an ambulance. You're not getting by me.
The challenges for people on Vancouver Island cut off by a wildfire. Plus, the relief of coming home.
We understand everybody's excited to get home, get to their houses.
2,400 people evacuated from Tumbler Ridge can safely return. And reopening after ruin.
It's that sense of hope that, this soul has been lifted.
2 years after fire ripped through town, Lytton lifts a state of emergency. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Michelle Ghoussoub. Stranded tourists, delayed deliveries, and a crucial connector still closed. Communities across Western Vancouver Island remain isolated tonight as a wildfire continues to burn near Highway 4. Port Alberni, Tofino, and Ucluelet are all affected. Our Susanna De Silva takes us there.
The roads here behind me should be very busy right now. It should be part of the peak season of the tourist season here, but right now it is very, very quiet. There's a lot of empty parking. There's no waits at a lot of the restaurants, and that is making a big concern for a lot of the businesses here who rely on this time of year to make much of their income for the season. They say that they are reducing hours, they are laying off staff, trying to make it work, but they are worried the longer this goes on, what it might mean for their businesses. And we did also speak to a number of locals who say they are trying to make the best of the situation right now, take advantage of the fact that it is much quieter, and get out and do some things they wouldn't normally do.
All the locals kind of come out of their shell and people actually start going back to the restaurants and going to their favorite spots, bars or shows again, because you can get tickets for them, there's seats, you don't have to wait in line and things like that. So there's that sort of looming feeling that, let's just hope the road stays open, let's hope the grocery store stays stocked, and as long as we have gas and stuff like that, what else are we going to do besides hunker down?
But for a lot of businesses here, again, they are worried at how long this goes. They hope that the timeline that has been given out by the province is one that they will stick to. We did also visit Port Alberni, which is the beginning of that detour that now adds the 4 hours. We spoke to a truck driver there who talked about taking a convoy that the province provides a couple times a day because he feels it is safer, that not everyone is driving perhaps as carefully as they should be on that gravel road that is that 4-hour detour now. He did also talk about the costs that are involved, the fact that he normally would make it between Port Alberni and Nanaimo twice in the same day in an 8-hour shift on one tank of gas. Now one trip is taking him 12 hours in that same tank of gas. So certainly a lot of costs and delays because of this.
A lot of commuters live maybe half an hour away, just on the other side. So for them to get to work is 4.5 hours instead of half an hour. So the health authority has arranged for some flights for some of the healthcare workers.
We've also heard about some teachers who are having to stay on the couches of colleagues, a frustration by the union there about teachers being asked to make that 4-hour commute or stay with colleagues at this point. And certainly some discussions now, even though they want to get through this at this point, but once they move on beyond this, looking at whether or not there should be another route in and out of these communities. Susanna De Silva, CBC News, Tofino.
Now to northeastern BC, where there is finally some relief. A week-long evacuation order due to a nearby wildfire has been lifted, and about 2,400 people have been told they can go back to their homes in Tumbler Ridge. District officials have lifted the evacuation order that went into effect last Thursday because of the threat posed by the West Kiskatinawa River wildfire. Residents were told to pack up their pets and essential belongings and look for temporary rooms in Chetwynd, Dawson Creek, and Fort St. John. The community's mayor says shifting winds were the biggest factor in allowing people to return home.
We understand everybody's excited to get home, get to their houses, check on their houses or their pets if they had to be left behind, because the cats were outside and stuff, so they weren't able to take them. But we just ask them to be very patient on the way coming home.
The West Kiskatinawa River wildfire is now 250 square kilometers large and still deemed out of control. An evacuation alert remains in place for the community. Well, this country's thoughts and concerns are focused tonight on a horrific highway crash in Manitoba. 25 passengers were on board a bus hit by a semi-truck just before noon local time. Their families are waiting to find out if their loved one is one of the 10 in hospital or one of 15 who have been killed. Cameron McIntosh has the details.
Seniors on a casino trip. Their bus completely destroyed after colliding with this truck in this intersection on the Trans-Canada Highway just north of Carberry, Manitoba, about 2 hours west of Winnipeg. Witnesses describe a horrible scene.
Death on this scale is never normalized for us.
RCMP found bodies strewn about and 10 people injured. Forensic experts are still trying to figure out who the victims are, as accident reconstructionists begin the meticulous task of sorting out what actually happened.
Answers will take some time, but I can assure you that the RCMP will get the answers.
Known so far, a minibus carrying 25 people left Dauphin about 2 hours north for a trip to a casino in Carberry. The bus crossed two westbound lanes at an intersection of a divided stretch of the Trans-Canada, then collided with the truck headed east. Both drivers survived. The 10 injured were taken to hospitals, including 4 airlifts to Winnipeg, where Manitoba's largest hospital was put on code orange, focusing all available resources on the accident.
And we are continuing to triage and move them where they need to be. Most of the injuries were head injuries or orthopedic in nature, and we'll continue to assess as we go.
Our hearts are broken, and our thoughts are with the families and loved ones of all the lives impacted by the horrific and devastating tragedy near Carberry.
It's also very similar to the crash in Humboldt. RCMP say experts from that investigation will help in this one. They are treating this as a potential crime scene.
We need to be alive to the fact that there could be wrongdoing. And if so, there could be a criminal element to this investigation.
CBC's Cameron McIntosh reporting tonight. Police say a man has been arrested after an 18-year-old was stabbed to death outside a Surrey school last fall. Last November, police raced to a report of an attack outside Tamanawa Secondary School. Mahek Preet Sethi was found suffering from life-threatening injuries. He died soon after. Police arrested a suspect yesterday. It's not clear if that person has been charged with a crime yet. IHIT is asking witnesses or anyone with information to contact police. Almost 2 years after it was destroyed by fire, the village of Lytton is ending its state of local emergency and its evacuation order. And as the CBC's Zara Premji reports, it's welcome news for many still trying to rebuild.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Fully carried. Thank you.
And with that, a decision made. Lytton is now open for everyone to return. Welcome news for the nearly 250 people who were forced to flee for their lives on June 30th, 2021. Many are still displaced.
There is no emergency anymore. We want to get our people in. We want to get the people back to their properties and start the work they need to do to start rebuilding.
A long time coming for the hundreds scattered in temporary homes, eagerly waiting to return.
It will be a social hub again. It will just allow you to see your neighbor walk down the street and have that sense of belonging. People really need that sense of belonging. They've been displaced way too long.
Though some won't move back. 2 years ago, this was the scene. Fire everywhere you looked, and the aftermath an eerie silence. A community all but laid waste. Homes, cars, businesses, memories, all burnt away, and 2 people dead. Now a collective sigh of relief as preparations get underway to go back home.
It's that sense of hope that, this soul has been lifted.
As an opportunity for them to be able to go and sit on their lot, if nothing else, and maybe have time to plan and envision what they see ahead.
And today
the federal government committed $77 million to help rebuild the village in a way that could better withstand fires. The majority of the money going to new fire-resistant community centers and libraries. The province has pledged almost $50 million.
Likely, more support will be needed. The archaeological work has been done, the site remediated, and basic services present in the village.
Beyond those services, Lightfoot can't wait to see her friends again when they return home.
Is my community. It's where I pick up my mail, I get my groceries, I socialize, I meet with friends.
The state of local emergency will officially be lifted on Monday. Zara Premji, CBC News, Vancouver.
Around 100 Vancouver police officers will soon wear body cameras as part of a pilot project. The move comes a month after a coroner's inquest into the beating death of Miles Gray. Among the key recommendations, the cameras be issued for all officers. But as Yasmin Rania reports, advocates say body cameras come with complications.
Starting this fall, uniformed officers from the force's patrol and traffic sections will wear body cameras for 6 months.
I've been saying for some years now that all frontline police officers in BC should be equipped with body cameras, in fact, in the whole country.
The cameras will be able to record both audio and video. A jury recommended the technology at Miles Gray's coroner's inquest last month. Gray died after a violent confrontation with Vancouver police officers in 2015. A confrontation ruled a homicide. Only officers saw what happened. Victims of police brutality and their families have long called for body cameras as a way to enhance police accountability, including Gray's family.
There needs to be accountability, body cams at the very least, more education.
Vancouver Police first considered cameras for its officers over a decade ago, and Delta Police already have a pilot program underway. But advocates caution body cameras have serious limitations.
The use of that technology would still fall within policing standards on a police act that provides far too much protection to police.
Groups also say cameras won't necessarily prevent or stop violent and potentially fatal encounters with police.
It's not the panacea that people might think it is, because, I mean, the perfect example for me is George Floyd, who was murdered with all the police wearing body-worn cameras.
For its part, Vancouver Police says it believes the cameras will have a positive impact on policing and plans to eventually secure cameras for all frontline officers. Yasmin Ranaya, CBC News, Vancouver.
A member of the Vancouver Police Board resigned abruptly today to protest the board's handling of the school liaison officer program. Rachel Roy was a member of the Vancouver Police Board, but she quit during today's meeting after a vote about the SLO program was suddenly cancelled. The cancellation upset members of the board's African Descent Advisory Committee. Roy said she was deeply disappointed.
Came here today to discuss how the board and the department can commit to anti-racism and decolonization when they cannot get their own advisory committee on board.
The program was axed in 2021 because of concerns about the well-being of students. Students of color especially said they didn't feel safe with armed police officers in schools. But the program was reinstated in November by a new school board, with 17 officers set to be stationed in high schools in the fall. The Vancouver Police Department has said that come September, the officers will wear less formal uniforms, have smaller, less visible guns, and get more cultural awareness training. Well, as the province faces the threat of a record wildfire season, BC's Premier says the need to fight climate change has never felt so urgent. And for the first time in 15 years, BC Hydro is gearing up to look for new sources of clean power. The province says it will work alongside BC Hydro and First Nations to generate more clean electricity, saying demand is expected to jump 15% in the next 7 years. David Eby says a recent forecast by Hydro with the BC Utilities Commission today confirms new sources of electricity will be needed 3 years earlier than expected. The call is expected to launch next spring.
This is not a return to the standing offer program. This is a new process, a competitive process that will work with independent power producers to deliver the power that we actually need and that is cost competitive.
The province says it's also promising $140 million to support Indigenous-led power projects. The minister responsible says the BC Indigenous Clean Energy Initiative will support smaller projects that may otherwise not be competitive. It was once the giant of the sky, fighting fires with an enormous load of water. Grounded for years, the Martin Mars bomber is set for one more flight. Where it's headed and why, after this. Thanks for watching our commercial-free live stream. A British couple are in Canada waiting for the right winds to whisk them away from a pit stop on the East Coast. They have high hopes of setting 2 world records as they cross the Atlantic Ocean in a balloon. Now, some might call it crazy, but the pilot and her blind co-pilot call it magical.
Here's our home for an indeterminate period. The bunk or bench, it's padded. One of us at night would sleep on that. Here, that'll be our cooking table. There's Deborah's control panel with the instruments on it.
We wanted to do something that hadn't been done before. And this, whilst a woman has been across, it's not a first from that perspective, no woman has captained a flight across the Atlantic.
And they didn't have a blind crew person.
We went on standby from June 7th, and now we're waiting for the right weather system to take us across.
A steady flow, really, isn't it? 4 days, we think, would be the shortest time, and longest 7 or 8. We don't know.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really exciting, and then I think when I look up and just see stars, that will be amazing, absolutely amazing. Yeah.
Because I've never seen unpolluted sky. You know, almost everywhere you go in Britain, I can't think of somewhere where we could go where there won't be light pollution. Everybody here is really helpful. It's a very friendly town. We've had a great welcome since we've been here. People in cafes have said hello and, oh, you're doing that, yeah. And people volunteered to help on the day.
It's not something you can describe, but most people, once they go in a balloon, it is just this awe. It is a fantastic way to travel. You'll go with the wind, there's no noise. I don't know how to describe it really, it's quite magical.
A Vancouver elementary school is on the verge of losing its field as the school board looks to generate new money. Graham Bruce Elementary School narrowly avoided closure in 2016. As CBC's Saurabh Sandhu reports, some parents hope the proposed sale could secure the school's future for generations to come.
Students at Graham Bruce Elementary are participating in their annual sports day, unsure whether they would have their entire playfield available for the next year.
And sports day will never be the same at Bruce if the subdivision plan is approved.
According to a Vancouver School Board proposal, the field may be subdivided so that half could be sold or leased. The move is a part of board policy known as disposal of land and improvements, aimed at generating funds and addressing its capital commitments and priorities. But some parents say,
and this was all done behind closed doors without consultation to the parent community.
Parents say school building urgently needs seismic upgrades. and the money raised could be used for it.
So according to the VSB's own Facility Conditions Index, our school building is rated as very poor. It's also H1 status, which means that it's the most vulnerable structure at highest risk of widespread damage or structural failure.
So parents have been asking for a school space audit and a crisis plan before you do things like sell a half a field. Doesn't make sense.
But the school board has not made clear where would the raised capital go. In 2016, due to low student enrollment, Graham Bruce Elementary was on verge of shutdown. But the closure was avoided after a group of parents campaigned against it, including then MLA from Joyce Collingwood, Adrian Dix.
You're going to have incredible density all around here. You're going to need a 500-person new school here, not what we have today, which is full at 283 kids today, and it's full.
In a written statement given to CBC, Dix says, "I have worked with parents to support the school repeatedly over past 10 years. I continue to support the Graham Bruce community now and will be with them as they work and sometimes fight to defend Bruce students and community." The Vancouver School Board says it must first decide if the site is surplus to the district's educational needs before considering future land use possibilities such as selling or leasing the land long term. The board is expected to share the details of public engagement process in the coming weeks. Saurabh Sandhu, CBC News, Vancouver.
The famed Martin Mars water bomber was retired several years ago, but the last airworthy bird may get a second life on Vancouver Island. The firefighting plane's owner, Port Alberni's Coulson Aviation, is in talks with the BC Aviation Museum to have the Mars on display in Sydney.
The Mars is iconic. You know, the red and white colored aircraft, this massive jumbo jet-sized aircraft that came around and could drop 8,000 gallons of water in a single drop, and it just squashed fires.
The museum says it's still in talks to secure a spot in its collection for the plane, but believes it would be a huge attraction. This is a shot of Whistler's Olympic Plaza. Johanna will have your full forecast next.
And people are now throwing things and fueling that fire that has engulfed the car in front of the post office.
Well, and now we're actually hearing some pops, some light explosions. And if you look to the left, that is another fire. Possibly it's a tear gas canister. I'm not sure. Let's not be so sure. I'm not certain because I'm a little bit of a distance away. But there's the big fire and we're seeing smoke in the bow. No, now I see the flames. Sorry, guys, that's a second fire in behind. And this is an area jam-packed with in excess of 100,000 people. This is the test. How quickly can police move people out of this crowd as we've got hundreds of thousands of angry fans. And I'm in a fan zone that was just moments ago full of families and children. Now I'm going to turn around and see what I can see. Yeah, it is very close to now the Federal Library building. Flames almost hitting the glass. You've got the bird's eye view there, but it is very close. And now there's flags going in. So at the moment, anyone with families and children have gone in the opposite direction, as you can imagine, of this, Tony. But right now, it seems to be drawing a crowd of a certain type of fans who've been in and out of the bars. Every bar in Vancouver was packed. Let's hope people stay inside. But this is the situation right now. I don't see fire crews, and I haven't seen them move barricades to move in a fire truck. So that's what we're wondering right now. We do see a large contingent of police officers holding people back. But I'd be waiting to see some fire emergency crews come in. All right, we'll throw it back to you, Tony, and I'll get back to you with any more information I have.
All right, Natalie, we're keeping an eye on that fire, and there are some periphery things going on. A few fights breaking up, perhaps fist fights. We don't exactly see what's going on, but we can see some movement in the crowds to the right of our position here. Now, fan zones have been set up all across the city during this playoff adventure, and Arthi Pohl joins us now from what we hope is one of the quieter ones in Surrey. Arthi?
Absolutely, Tony. If you want to see the complete opposite of what's happening in Vancouver, come out to Surrey. It is absolutely empty. There are more police RCMP officers than fans flooding the streets. They haven't even had to close down 72nd Avenue and Scott Road because there just is not the fan base in order to have to do that. But the RCMP are here. They're ready. They're standing by. And I actually noticed a lot of fans leaving during the second, during the third period, but it is not at all a hostile mood. It is just a defeated mood, a depressed mood, and you'll notice how different this scene is compared to what it looked like after Game 5, which we won on Friday. 5,000 people flooded this intersection, and there was a handful of problems, really, so it wasn't a problematic intersection, but there were thousands of people here. Today, emptiness, absolutely emptiness. You'll see the cops, they don't even have anyone to high five. Everyone is, again, in a very down and depressed mood. So that's basically what the scene is out here from Surrey. And it looks like people, although they like to celebrate together, they don't like to grieve this sort of a loss together. Tony?
Arthi, thanks so much. We'll take a break. Stay with us. Our post-game coverage continues on CBC Newsnet.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox.
The 15th annual Vancouver Festival kicks off this July, and CBC Vancouver is proud to be the exclusive media partner. Enjoy a series of sensational Latin American experiences and the popular Carnaval del Sol Festival. And CBC British Columbia launches the Herb Original, a new podcast for Indigenous History Month. All episodes are available now on CBC Listen.
The weather update is brought to you by Direct Buy Furnace, installing the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train.
Johanna Wagstaff joins us now for a look at the forecast. Joe, here in Vancouver, at least, quite a bit warmer than it felt yesterday.
Yeah, Michelle, a lot of good rain for much of the province, but not really seeing it down across the southern interior, not quite here on the south coast. Let me show you what this looks like on the satellite and radar. Big Pacific low sweeping in from the west. First the warm front, then the cold front. So it is going to bring unsettled weather. Right now, we still have that northerly flow coming down the interior. So poor air quality statements in effect from Fort Nelson through to Kamloops, and even in through the North Okanagan with that northerly flow. And you may have noticed some of that haze in through the Fraser Valley this morning, all coming from our two big fires up in the northeast. Fire danger still significantly lower in the southeast from that rain 2 days ago. Hopefully this next system that brings rain to basically all the areas in orange and red really drops that fire danger. As I've said before, though, given the fuel conditions, it won't take much for things to turn around, but it sure would be nice to have a couple days break with the lower fire danger. And this is what's going to bring it, that cold front sweeping across the province. You can really see it's a Friday, Saturday story. By Saturday afternoon, it's hopped over the Rockies. And what we're left with is a spinning low off the coast. So we'll see most of our rain for central and northern coastal sections. This is the low that's been giving our forecast so much back and forth. If you in Vancouver have been checking your apps for the weekend, you'll notice that it keeps flip-flopping. Hard to say how far south that low gets for the weekend. We know we're going to get the majority of the rain north of the Sunshine Coast. That's where we've got the rain in the forecast tomorrow. Just a slight risk of a stray shower across the south coast tomorrow. And there is a slight chance of a thunderstorm in the Okanagan, mainly dry, though, across the southeast. So right now, I'm thinking a bit of a mix for Metro Vancouver and the south coast as we head into the weekend. Just a stray shower Friday. Honestly, the models have been flip-flopping as far as how much in the way of showers we get for Saturday, Sunday. Know that amount-wise, it isn't much, and I do think we'll see some sunny breaks. It's next week that we'll get one more final round before we heat back up, Michelle. More hot and dry weather in the forecast.
Thanks, Joe. And that is your late news for Thursday. Thank you for joining us tonight. For news anytime, visit our website. That's cbc.ca/BC. Your next local news is on the early edition on CBC Radio 1, and that starts tomorrow morning at 5:30. Good night.